excuse me. I think the only other case that is ready and has all the parties present is the Wilson and Carpenter case with cross petitions. So I have Teddy Heck and Michael Wilson. Then I have Veronica Carpenter and Michael Wilson and Jessica Wilson, and then Jessica Wilson and Veronica Carpenter. And I think these are all related. Okay. All right. So I every now and then I do this, and sometimes it works better because it makes more sense to the parties if I just hear from all of you and not just chop these up into 3 cases and just kind of hear them together instead as one, if that makes sense to you. So Ms. Carpenter, does that make sense to you?
That'd be great, Your Honor.
Okay, and then Ms. Heck, does that make sense to you too?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. All right. And then the Wilsons as well. Okay. So I'll do it that way. I will decide the cases separately, but I will just hear all the information together and make a decision. Okay. Okay. So can I have you folks come up to the table? There's a microphone there that's going to let everybody hear you. And then I've got Ms. Heck here on video and audio, and I've got Ms. Carpenter here on video and audio. These are cases 23, 236, 237, and 238. All right. And I did have a question, I guess, before we get started for everybody, because I don't see that any of you got notice in form of service. So are you ready to go?
That's right.
Did you get notice in time?
We are.
Okay. Are you folks also ready? You've got notice in time?
Yes.
Your Honor, I did submit some video evidence. I don't know if that was okay, good. Thank you.
Said I also submitted some video evidence.
Yeah, I got that additional evidence that was submitted. Okay. Very good. All right, then. Let me get the case up. All right. So then what I'll do, I mean, you're all petitioners in a way, and you're all respondents in a way, I guess. So why don't I just hear from each of you one at a time? You can each tell me your version of this and why you think you're entitled to an order. And then after I've heard from everybody, I'll make a decision. I'll probably have questions, but I'll ask them when I have them. All right. So just to make this easier for me to keep track of which case I'm hearing at a time, I'm going to start with Ms. Heck. All right. And Ms. Heck, as petitioner in case 236, why don't you go ahead and tell, or before you do, I'll swear you all in. Use your right hands, please. Do each of you swear the testimony you give in this matter, these matters, will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Ms. Heck, you get to go first. You go right ahead.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking for the order against Michael is because on or about, for the second time, May 30th, Michael got a DV charge against him from his wife, Jessica, for hitting her, choking her, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, there was a no contact order for Jessica, which meant he couldn't come around here within 1,000 feet. So I said, okay, we'll just leave it with that. I should have probably asked for the order then, because on Michael's way out, before he was arrested, he threatened. He said, when I get out of jail, I'm going to come back and shoot my wife and beat the shit out of Teddy. I'm like, why me? I didn't do anything. And he commenced to just start screaming at me. And like I said, that's where I screwed up. I should have got an order then because that is the second time Michael has threatened me. The first time when Michael got his first DV against Jessica, or she got against him for pointing a gun at her pregnant belly. He also then threatened to come back and shoot me. I didn't believe that Jessica would ever try to drop the domestic violence orders. So therefore, that's where, again, I messed up by not getting anything against him. I did have a personal conversation with Michael and explained to him that I didn't want him coming back here, for the way he's acted, the things that he said and the things that he has done. And he personally told me that he would respect that and he wouldn't come back here. But Jessica somehow was able to drop this DV against him, and now he's back here, and she and he think it's perfectly fine for him to be here, even though I am afraid of him. I don't like being threatened to be shot or beat up. I run this campground, and my husband and I run this campground. My husband owns it. And I have a lot of tenants here who are really afraid of Michael, and he is threatened more than just me here. As you'll see from Veronica Carpenter, she has a couple of videos of the way Michael acts when he gets angry. He's got some anger issues. Why? I'm not sure. Do I wish him the best and hope he gets all that fixed? Absolutely. But not at my expense or my campers' expenses here at the campground.
Okay, let me ask you a couple questions about that. I'm mostly interested in the residential situation. So which is this, what, Salmon Shores?
No, this is Olympia Campground and RV Park.
Oh, okay. So this is Olympia Campground.
Yes.
Is this a situation where people live in there long-term?
We do have long-termers here, yes.
Are the Wilsons long-termers?
Yes.
Okay. And does that mean that they're living there with any kind of a lease agreement?
No, I don't do.
Okay.
It's a month to month. And at that, they're a month and a half behind in rent right now also.
Okay, but it's a situation where they're renting a place and then they're staying there on that site.
Right. With their own RV.
And then they're in their own RV.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that does raise some issues I'm concerned about, but I'll get to that. I'll hear from everybody first. Okay, so I think I have a little bit better understanding of how that works. And you and your husband, you own and manage the campground itself.
Correct.
Okay, so for lack of any better, more formal term, you're the landlords.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And tell me how long the Wilsons have been staying there.
About a year and a half, close to 2
Okay.
years now.
Okay, so they didn't just pull in a couple weeks ago.
No. Jessica has been here before in the past and had issues with her last boyfriend. They ended up getting kicked out for non-payment. She got in a bad spot with him. And then she ended up coming back here, and then she met Michael, and they got married and stayed here. And I've tried to help Jessica, but I can't help her anymore because she seems to be okay. And I'm not, it's my opinion, but she seems to be okay with the fact that he has had now 2 domestic violence orders against her, and she's more than willing to drop them. And that's on her, but I don't want him here threatening me or any of my other campers as he has done in the past.
Okay, so I think I've got a pretty good grip on the basis for you asking for this order. So
Okay.
I will, if you have told me everything that you need to tell me, I will then go to Veronica.
Perfect.
And Ms. Carpenter, you can tell me, kind of like Ms. Heck did, why it is you believe that I should issue the order.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, there's only been 2 times that the police have actually been involved, but this is an ongoing issue where I can't confront I live right next to them, like maybe 5 feet away. The first time I was outside and I hear Jessica screaming and saying, "Mike, get the gun out of my face," putting my own life actually right in harm's way as well, because I'm less than 5 feet away from them. The second time I was asleep and Mr. Wilson practically ripped my RV door off. Thank goodness it was locked, trying to get in after he and his wife were having a domestic battle. He asked for help. He asked if he could come in. I said no, because I know that he has weapons. My first instinct as a combat veteran is to get him away from the source of the weapon. I am employed by an elderly lady, 83-year-old lady that I care for. She had just called. I needed to go check on her. So I had Mr. Wilson, and my main concern was that he had his less than a year-old baby at 9:30 in the morning just in a onesie, and it was cold. I wanted to get the baby inside in a safe environment. As I put him in there, he's talking about how he is going to blow everybody's head off. He's going to take his baby to Guam. He's going to kill his wife. He doesn't give a shit about their 12-year-old little girl. He can fuck off. Excuse my language, but that's the context he was using. Sheriff, finally, Jessica was, he wanted to go get food for the baby. She followed him. Then he came back. He refused to let me hold the baby just to kind of get the baby safe. He came back to the house, made the baby a bottle. Sheriffs were called. He refused to come out, saying he would come out firing his weapons. I wasn't sure if he had one on hand or not. Caused me to have to get the 83-year-old lady that I care for out of the trailer, her dogs out of her trailer, and it caused the SWAT team to come here because at that point they considered it a hostage situation. And since then, Mrs. Wilson seems to think for some reason I'm the one that got CPS involved in this case. And so now she's kind of trying to make my life hell here in the community. She's telling everybody that I called CPS. And I will say that I did lose my temper after a couple months of being harassed. And I yelled at her when she brought Michael home after he's been asked not to be here. Because I asked the heck, what are you going to do to help me be safe? I've done nothing wrong here. And she said, and I had the documents that Mrs. Heck sent me saying, well, you've asked him not to come back. He has agreed not to come back. As soon as their own protection order was dropped between the two of them, which they actually never followed. She's the one that picked him up from jail and brought him back here that night. I don't feel safe. I don't want him near me or the kids in the park. And he's caused me to have severe triggers with my combat PTSD after one, worrying about guns going off 5 feet from me, to pounding on my door at 9:30 in the morning and putting me in flight or fright. And again, I live by myself. I've done nothing to this family but try to love them and support them. I've seen this in the past with other neighbors. They get a target on them, and then eventually it ends up being physical. They've tried to go to another site. That's two of the videos that I have documented. She's in his face, they're in their face. I don't know what it is, if it's something for them that they enjoy doing together. The other video, they decided to jump a school parent while they were waiting to drop their child off for school. Michael threw the first punch. Jessica was not drunk, pregnant, and kicking the gentleman in the head. So they do this, and they have a pattern of this. And I do not want to get into a situation, sir, where I have to defend myself and I get in trouble, because they will lay hands on me eventually. Just even right after the first court where we got our temporary orders before they were served, which they avoided being served for a while, they drove by my place of employment recording me while Jessica's laughing. So I don't really want to play their game, and I would like to know how I'm going to be protected in this, because I do nothing but try to live a good life here.
Okay, so your relationship with the Wilsons is that you're essentially their next door neighbor.
Correct.
All right, and you don't have any role in operating or managing the campground.
No, Your Honor.
You work to provide care to an elderly lady. Yes,
Your Honor.
Okay, I think I understand the basis that you're requesting that I issue that order against the Wilsons. So now what I'll do is I'll hear from the Wilsons, so when I do, you can respond to what they said, and then Mrs. Wilson, it looks like you're also asking for an order against Ms. Carpenter, so you can tell me the basis that you're doing that too. Okay. So for the Wilsons, now it's your turn to tell me what you think I need to know.
I really don't know where to start, Your Honor, because a lot of that was not even true.
Okay.
A lot of what both of them said is not even true. One, me and my husband, we did have our issue on May 28th. I have not asked the courts to drop it. We have done everything that we're supposed to do. He has done everything that he is supposed to do, getting counseling, getting a DV assessment, getting everything that the courts have put in place. At that point, Teddy Heck was actually telling me, as long as you guys get your court stuff figured out, he is more than welcome to come back so you guys can figure out what's going on. She was also telling me at that point, don't worry about rent, because we were dealing with CPS and I was trying to get a renting voucher, some kind of rental help. She said, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. She kept on pushing it off, kept on pushing it off. So yes, we are a month and a half behind. We have been in complete communication with Perry Heck. I also have video proof of this, and that is the owner of the campground, and he is in agreement of letting us have our time to be able to clean up our site and move. At this point, Veronica Carpenter, I had put in that video of her approaching us once we had gotten home the night after we got our court finalized. We went shopping to get food and stuff for our house. She had approached me extremely intoxicated, with my newborn in my arms, saying that she was going to beat me up, as you can see in the videos.
Mr. Wilson?
So in regards to what Mrs. Heck said about there being 2 domestic violence charges, that is inaccurate. There was 1. In regards to the supposed threat that I made to Ms. Heck, that is inaccurate. That threat was directed at my wife, who was standing there with Ms. Heck. The reason I yelled and screamed at Ms. Heck was because she came out of the store yelling and screaming at me when I was in a heightened state, commanding orders of me to give my son to her. I told her to mind her business and don't tell me what to do with my son. I never threatened to shoot my wife. I don't have guns in the household. The instance with the gentleman that I got into a physical altercation with out in front of Bush Middle School, the said gentleman was speeding down the school zone as my wife and I and several children were crossing the road. He decided to slam on his brakes, roll his window down, and yell obscenities. We got into a verbal altercation. He then proceeded to step out of his vehicle, very large black individual, and came in my direction aggressively. So I defended myself and my family.
Which cops were called in that incident, and the cops had ruled it out that both parties left. We all left with no
The police
consequence.
actually asked my wife and I if we wanted to press charges against that individual because he was the aggressor by stepping out of his vehicle.
Well, I'm not going to worry too much about that other incident.
My-
I'm just focusing on the folks here in front of me.
Right, and as far as me being in the elderly lady's camper, that is true. I was in there with my son. Never threatened to shoot anybody. The police knocked at the door. I told them to come on in. They asked if they could take my son. I said, no, I will hand him over to my wife and my wife only, which I did so calmly. That is also in the police record. They were videotaping that. I'm sure the courts can look into that if they choose to do so.
Pull the body cam.
But as far as the accusations of me threatening to shoot anybody is false and inaccurate.
Okay, so are you folks in the process of moving away
Yes.
from the
We're
old
trying.
We
campground?
will be out of that camp.
My 12-year-old is so afraid of
Well,
Veronica Carpenter
Let's
that she won't even leave my house.
let me just get a grip kind of on what's going on. Do you have another place lined up yet, or are you
Yes,
just working
we
on
do.
that?
We do.
Do you know when you're going to be moving?
The 26th.
And it's not nearby here, not nearby to Olympia?
We're gonna be going to Texas.
All right. Okay. Obviously, this is a difficult situation for everybody. And I know that these kind of living arrangements can be difficult because there's a lot to consider. I mean, you're living in very close proximity, and in these kind of situations, a lot of time it's a matter of thin walls or no walls or tent walls, just depending on your particular situation. And I know there's also, a lot of people coming and going. You don't necessarily have long-term residents and long-term relationships. And then when you add in, like, unfortunately for you folks, there appears to have been a situation of domestic violence that, the cops needed to come, as you said, and they did what they had to do. And that included you getting arrested, and, that process is that process, but that kind of brings a level of tension you know, to a neighborhood, I guess. And, you know, with Miss Carpenter, she's clearly upset about that. Tech is clearly upset about that too. And I completely understand in circumstances like that where there's heightened emotions and people get upset and they say things, and there may be raised voices, there may be unkind words. And I heard some of that on the videos that were submitted. And to be honest with you, I'm not concerned about unkind words raised voices. Those are things that happen in life and don't mean that courts have to get involved.
Yeah.
Okay. But there is a point, you know, where people can become threatened, people can become worried that their safety is at stake, or their mental health, their mental state suffers because of kind of a repetition and continuation of that kind of behavior, those kind of threats. So, you know, that's what I've got to be concerned about, is whether that sort of thing's going on. And so I'm taking you folks seriously for what you've brought to my attention. Now, I do have to tell you, though, that the situation is a little bit legally problematic, because this court's not allowed to issue an order that would result in the Wilsons getting evicted from the park. Okay. I know it's not an apartment building, it's not a rental house, but in a situation like this, you know, the law doesn't just allow people to be kicked off. There's a legal process for that. And the law is also clear that in an anti-harassment case, which is what you people have, the court here can't issue an order that would result in you being removed from your residence, even if you're moving anyway, even if you only have a month to month. Okay. So any order that I do issue would be kind of personal, so to speak, and it wouldn't relate to your residence. So what I'm going to recommend as a way to kind of resolve this, and you folks don't have to do this. I would understand if you don't want to, but what I could do is kind of put this on hold, continue this proceeding till after the 26th. Is that when you're
leaving the state? We're on the 26th.
We can
Okay. And then if the Wilsons have decamped for their new residence, then these petitions can all be dismissed and you folks can be done. Okay, that's something we could do as a way to kind of get you to the point where this gets resolved. So I would do this. I would extend the orders. I'd set a date, which would be like the 28th. And then when the 28th rolls around, if you folks are gone to Texas, and if, you know, there's no further issues with problems or violations, then all three of the petitions can be dismissed and you folks can be done. What do the Wilsons think of that?
That suits us perfectly fine, sir.
All right, Ms. Heck, what do you think of that? Your sound's off.
I'm sorry. Do I have any kind of a guarantee that they're going to be gone by the 28th? Because
All you got's their word.
I wanted to start eviction. We've already started eviction through our lawyer. So
yeah, what I'm saying is the temporary order that was issued before would just continue on, and then assuming they're gone and out, you know, out of there on the 28th, everybody's petition would be dismissed.
I will dismiss it if they are gone on the 28th.
Okay. All right. And what do you think, Ms. Carpenter? Do you think that's a good way to resolve your concerns?
Only for the children, yes. Because the kids are good. I do want to know, did the anti-harassment that I was served with involve their daughter? Because she's not afraid of me and has come up to me and said hello.
I can check that for you now.
I have
My
not.
daughter has not left the home.
Yeah,
My daughter has not
She
left
has
my
not.
house. She
I
has
just want to make sure
cried
I'm
and
not
begged me
breaking.
not to make
hold
her
on,
leave.
just hold on. It all depends on what the order says. Okay.
My
That's
daughter
all
is
I want to
protected.
make sure that I'm abiding by the order, sir. I'm not going to
Yep.
tell. She's not at fault. The child's not at fault. It's the parents that are.
My daughter is
Okay.
protected in my order.
All right. I'm just, like I said, I'm just
Both my kids
double
are.
checking that. Yep. Yeah, that's part of the order. That'd stay part of the order
Okay.
until the order terminates, which, okay. So Ms.
Then-
Carpenter, are
then
you in
Mrs.
agreement with
Wilson-
doing it that way?
Excuse me, sir. Then they need to advise her because I wouldn't be saying it unless I thought that I had to. Please advise their daughter not to come up to me and say hello because she has, and there's no reason for me to lie about that. She's a
Well,
good girl.
it sounds like they've heard that loud and clear. They're both
Okay.
acknowledging that.
I'm
Okay.
fine with it. I just want it resolved and I want them to get on with their lives. I
Right.
wish them the best.
Okay, I know this is a little bit unusual, but what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to get you folks to a position where this all can just be put behind you and you don't have any kind of lingering issues with orders out there that can wind up, causing you legal problems down the road. Okay. All right, then that's what we'll do. We'll just so everyone's clear, the temporary orders get extended. The termination date on those is going to be August 28th. I will be here August 28th. I'll be, if it turns out that you folks have moved on, then, that the Wilsons have moved on, then all 3 petitions are going to be dismissed and all of you can just put this behind you.
Thank you.
Okay. Then I will do the paperwork on those things right now. And then we'll see you all. Well, I guess we'll probably see Ms. Carpenter and Ms. Heck back here on the 28th.
That's what one would hope, sir. Thank you.
All right. I hope that this helps you.
Your Honor, could you please ask them to also keep away from Veronica and myself and no antagonizing, no talking, no none of that?
They do. They've got to do that because that's part of the order.
Right, okay.
All right. And Kayla, I am going to be relying on you to make appropriate docket entries to that effect because I know this is a little bit different than. Okay. The temporary orders are extended as I indicated, and they're all available from the court clerk on the court's website for you.
Can we just collect our copy on the way out?
Say again?
Can we just collect our copy on the way out?
She can make copy for you right now.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, I hope it works out for all of you. All right, thank you very much.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
He lies so much.
All right, so Miss Heck, you're good to go.
Nothing but lies. You're good to go. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Or am I the only one that caught that?
What's that?
The lion sack of that she just said?
Let's don't.
I'm
let's just-
sorry, but my 12-year-old won't even leave my home.
Okay. Okay, let's check in with Austin and make sure we got a better connection. Austin, can you hear me?